Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our big final review discussion of Hawkeye. Its big giant series finale, the Kingpin, Yelena, the showdown at Rockefeller Center. So much to talk about. So let's just get into it quick away. Right introductions. Joining me as always from Smoking Reviews, it's Rob Stone.
Yay!
Bah humbug. Yeah, I'm not really in the Christmas spirit, but I am in the spirit to talk Hawkeye. So yes, good to be here for the finale, and let's just jump right into it. And as we have she was here at the premiere, and now she's here at the end. We got Corrie.
Yes, hello. I'm glad to be here. I will counteract your bah humbug and bring you Christmas cheer.
We'll double up the Christmas cheer on the other end. And of course, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I know we got a couple more days into it, but definitely we won't see you until after the holidays. So I hope you guys are all having good celebrations, being safe, small groups, mask up, watch going out. The weather's all messed up. It's been raining here in LA. Just sit by the fire, the heater, the TV, watch some more Hawkeye.
Yeah.
It's safer. Want to be sure to say hello to everyone joining us live in the chat. Silver Surfer, as always, here with us. Wes Sager as well. Welcome, everybody. And of course, everyone joining us in the archives. Thank you so much for taking some time to enjoy our little discussion. Let's get into it. So this is Christmas. Big finale. Corrie, again, since you started things off with us and had the first thing, why don't you tell us how you felt about the series kind of as a whole, and then get into this episode real quick before we start hitting all the specifics. What'd you think of Hawkeye overall and our finale specifically?
I would say overall, I enjoyed it. I think it could have been a bit better in terms of what we received, but I wasn't upset with what we were given. It was kind of like middle level to decently good. I felt like we had too many villains at the end. It was just like we were dealing with like 6 or 7 different people, and it felt kind of like a Christmas smorgasbord when I just really wanted a turkey dinner. I just wanted Hawkeye and Kate and maybe 1 or 2 big bads instead of, everything showing up to the party.
Sure.
Including Uncle Bob, who we didn't invite, but he comes anyway type thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was kind of my feel for the show. I did like the emotional beats that we got, especially with the Yelena and Clint and with Kate and Clint. I thought those more heartfelt moments kind of saved the zany and the crazy elements, or balanced it out. Yeah. But
did you think that did the finale pay off for you, do you think? Or was it, just, again, too many things, so it was incomplete?
I feel like it would have been nicer to have a bigger finale with a more tightened focus instead of having like 3 different things. And I never felt that the tracksuits were a viable threat. They from the beginning, they kind of came off as dopey and like in the Snow White and some Dwarf sense of dopey, and just not something that Kate even really needed to worry about. I think the only time I was concerned is when they were attacking the car that she was in. But Clint seems so overly talented in his skill set that they aren't even a risk to him. They're more of an annoyance. So I would have liked something a bit more up the stakes a bit more. I just didn't feel like the threat was really there. And then the big shootout scene that we had reminded me a bit of the Avengers when they were in New York and we did that circle pan around.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a lot of trick arrows, and then it was just over. So
So
Yeah.
hordes of literally faceless bad guys coming at you. Okay, fair enough. Rob, what about you? What did you think of our finale episode here, and all of the stories and tie-ups and things that it had to do?
Well, as a whole, I really did enjoy it. The finale paid off, but I mean, again, I feel like the major problem with this show is trying to do too much, trying to show to you, like, just give us, you're trying to jam so much future content
Mm.
and not letting us be in the present moment enough, where we're all now thinking about where this goes, where that goes, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I want a show about Hawkeye and Kate, like you're saying, and not necessarily about everybody else.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and not giving enough time to anybody else to, everybody just had, there's not enough Hawkeye, there's not enough Kate, there's not enough Echo, there's not enough, like, all of it just as a whole, there's just little bits of this when you could have gotten one bigger story. I could have done without Yelena being in this or Echo, one of the two.
Yeah.
They needed to make a choice there, drop one or the other. And I think that the way that I think that we could have, with the way that they set up the end of Black Widow for Clint, it was, I think you probably bring in Yelena and drop Echo. And or you can introduce Echo and that's it. You know. And what we got was a lot more than we bargained for. I mean, they gave everybody a lot of stuff, and that's, you know, more is sometimes good, less is sometimes better. In this case, I think a little bit less would make it a little bit better, a little more focused story. But I still really enjoyed it, despite there still being some problems, and we'll get to those in more detail. But I mean, if I had to put this anywhere, I mean, it's better than Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's better than What If. It's better than Black Widow the movie, which is, you know, we all know, which is sad. But yeah, a little more focus. And I mean, this said season finale, not series finale, right? So I don't even know, like, what they plan on doing if they come back. But hopefully they'll learn a little bit and maybe be able to, now that we've gotten so much out of the way, if they come back, maybe they will be, you know, a more focused story. But,
right on.
Yeah, I feel like the tracksuits were giving me very strong Home Alone vibes. You know? And it was just that kind of zany, crazy, sort of holiday funny movie vibe, but it really wasn't a threat.
Well, yeah. See, I always like the tracksuits early on because it felt like the right level threat. As is like, this is an annoyance, but we're not worried about, you know, the planet being taken over. And even by the end, this really ends up being not even a battle for New York. It's just, can you save the family? Can you save these couple people and get away? So I like the fact that it does kind of keep the stakes focused. But it does, I mean, yeah, they're treading across a few genres here with the holiday bit and the superhero bit. And, you know, I know a lot of us want there to be a more of a serious edge, whereas it's Disney, so it's going to have the more family friendly edge. And
but apparently you can hit as many people as you want with arrows. Like, you can show people getting stuck all over the place with arrows, but you can't show, you know, you can't show anybody actually getting shot.
They're knockout arrows.
Yeah,
they're the non-lethal. They're all the non-lethal. Just stop you. As long as there's no blood, you can't prove they're dead. Okay, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, overall, I have to agree. I really enjoyed the finale. I do have some issues, like I say, that we will get in. That, I mean, does cast certain powers over things, but overall, I like the adventure. I like the characters. I like the emotional arcs that we had kind of carried through it. I agree. I think there's too many moving parts they tried to throw in there, and it kind of gave them a certain lack of focus. But we got our big showdown. We got trick arrows. And we got the return of D'Onofrio as the Kingpin Wilson Fisk, which we glimpsed last week and honestly had a lot more of than I thought we would in this finale, I have to say. So let's start off. And I'm really curious with you, Corey, because a lot of us have come into this with knowledge of the Netflix series and have seen all that. So we've got a strong feeling of D'Onofrio in this character, whereas you haven't seen those. So this is kind of a newer introduction. So I'm really curious off of your take. What did you feel from the Kingpin, from Wilson Fisk, from Winston D'Onofrio's character? And was it fitting in with the genre, the feel? Was it different? What was your take on this big reveal here?
I think when they introduced him, I picked up on kind of a film noir sort of style, like his, at least costume wise, he came across as, a mafia boss that would be in a film noir kind of setting. I was surprised at how overpowered he was. I wasn't sure if he had access to like a knockoff super soldier serum or what was going on, because he was shot point blank with an arrow in the chest and just like ripped it out and kept going. He was hit with a vehicle and went flying through a wall. A whole bunch of arrows blew up around him, and he still seems to be okay. So I don't have a history, I don't know his history as a character. All I know is from some of the reviews I looked at, and they mentioned that at one point he loses his eyesight because he's shot point blank. And so I wondered if the line where he meets Echo and says, family doesn't always see eye to eye, and then someone is shot. And so I'm like, oh, does that mean she pulled that shot? I don't know. But that's really all I knew. And yeah, he just came across as way overpowered, or so I wasn't sure if he was wearing bulletproof suit or something, or what was going on.
well, Rob, then let me throw it up to you, since you and I have talked and had certain expectation of knowing him from Netflix. Really, what I'm getting down to is, what do you feel of him showing up here? How did you feel he worked out, and what are the differences between, you think, his maybe Netflix incarnation and this incarnation, and do those differences even matter?
I'm very familiar with Kingpin, both in comic form and in the Netflix show. I just finished watching season 1 of Daredevil last week, for the fourth time, I think, fourth or fifth time. I can definitely see why you'd think that, and I think that a lot of people are going to be thinking like you are, that he's some sort of powered guy. He's always had body armor, Kevlar, good stuff taking. He's got Batman armor, man. He can take, all sorts of shots. But the D'Onofrio from the Netflix show, he is definitely not. And it's apparent, right from literally almost one of the first frames. There's a different gait to this actor, his portrayal. There's a more comic book feel to him. There's a more grandiose film. There's a more over-the-top feel, which is a little bit good, a little bit scary. Because his imposing nature in the show, they never really showed him being overpowering. He's just a big, strong guy. In this, they go the full comic route, where in the comics, he is so big and he can just toss you around. And my only problem that I had with this in the show was that it was actually just literally how they were framing him in shots.
Yeah.
In some of the shots, he looks really imposing. In a lot of close-ups, he looks bigger. But there are times where you can tell he's level with someone that you're like, it has a hard time. You have a hard time buying the size of this. And I was like, he needs to call Peter Jackson. Somebody needs to call Peter Jackson and say, you did all those Hobbit movies. You made tall people look really tall, short people like really short. Like it's all about perspective. And I think if they start framing him better, it'll be easier to accept what he's capable of. And then, like I was talking about the performance. Now, this Kingpin, he is very willing to get his hands dirty himself. Netflix's would do anything to avoid that. Like he wouldn't have gotten into a fight with Kate Bishop unless it was like the last final thing. Like he would never come up and expose himself for a little street fight with some kid. Even if it was to go after, he'd find somebody else to go after the mother. It would not be him, or they'd take her and bring her to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this guy, he's more proactive, which is a little different from the comic book one. But the comic book one, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty when he needs to, because everybody basically knows who he is at this point in the comic world. Everybody knows who Wilson Fisk is. And I thought it was amazing what D'Onofrio was able to do with, I'm going to be the same guy, but not. Even with the eye twitches, with the facial tics that is even more pronounced, like that I associate more with the comic book version of Kingpin, you always feel like he is 1 millisecond away from snapping and killing everyone in a room, to the D'Onofrio on the show, who I feel is more like quietly menacing and does not give you any inclination that he's going to attack until he's attacking. This one's got the more of like he's bottling it in, but they wanted to show you that he's bottling it in.
Yeah.
And then there is a bit of the over the top kind of almost Batman 60s villain here.
Yeah.
Also the cane. You got like when I said one of the first frames, the cane is such a big part. It's basically a part of that character, and having that in here was also really, really cool and really, really accurate. I think they're trying to do honor to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
With what it is here. They know that a whole bunch of people already know who this guy is, but now we're going to subvert your expectations a little bit, but in a good way. And I think that this is how you do that. Again, take it down to a little more family-friendly version of him a little bit. Only a little bit, though. The Hawaiian shirt thing had me for a loop for a second, because I felt like it was kind of like, what if the Kingpin dressed like the Joker in The Killing Joke? That's what it felt like.
Sure.
He just shows up with the big Hawaiian shirt and like he's going on vacation. But yeah, he was my favorite part of the episode, and even though I don't know if he was necessarily needed on this level, it was great getting it, because we just love him as this character. Those of us who have been watching for Daredevil for years. But like I said, it's good that he's here. He didn't have to be, but I think they really wanted to finally start to expand on the street level stuff and show that they didn't forget all of the things that we have loved in the past, even if they, still like to stab the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans in the face.
We'll be getting to that. There's definitely going to be a discussion towards the end of this that will involve some of that. But
yeah.
But I have to agree. I like the fact that the biggest question I had was, how menacing is he going to be? Because that was really, I think, what D'Onofrio was able to bring so much to Wilson Fisk, is that simmering anger, that the just that force of character. And right off the bat, you're right. The way they frame it, the way that he has his shirt, his cane, more of a comic book look. In fact, I think somebody had tweeted out, I think, the comic book cover that has him in that shirt and the white suit, attacking. So it was kind of a very cool little flashback in that sense. But instantly scary, instantly menacing, instantly, again, has that feel of his Netflix character, but in a more MCU version, in the more super version where he can take that arrow straight to the chest. And is it body armor? Sure. Is it also the fact that he is just this giant, thick, muscled, layered beast of a man? That is also part of it, He can take an explosion, maybe a little more on the souped area. But again, I think you're right. It is more really on where the comic brings it, as opposed to the more grounded feel that the Netflix series had. So I think they're going to try and for the most part, I think so far successfully bridge that gap of going, let's keep that intensity of character, of emotion, of danger, and we just layer the super on top of it. When we see Daredevil, we never really saw him using his powers, I think, except for one shot with Karen Page in the first season, when "What Do I See Like Through Your Eyes" or something like that. And it was like on fire and all really super cool. And like, that was it. We never saw any of his, superpowers and swinging vines and jumping and doing a lot of his comic things, which I think when we see that, they'll just layer that in to give the kind of superpower MCU feel to it. So I was very heartened by the fact that there was still D'Onofrio being just terrorizing. And honestly, that's all that I wanted from Kingpin's return.
As somebody who isn't as familiar with the character at all, I definitely picked up on that he's an imposing character, but I didn't pick up as strongly on his threats, only because he didn't do a lot. Most of the scenes were him talking up until the last episode where he's ripping a door off of a car and threatening Kate's mom. But at that point, I'm like, okay, but I haven't actually seen him follow through on these. If he had got into a room and 10 guys had been dead and he walks out and I didn't see what happened, but I see the room with these 10 guys dead, then I'm going to think, oh, okay, this guy means business. So in the sense of the mafia sort of running everything, I could see that he definitely was in control of everything. But having had no background on his character and then only getting him for one episode and a bit, I was left wanting, show me why everybody else is afraid of him. I'm seeing the reactions to him, but I'm not seeing what he does that necessitates this fear.
Again, I get that's going to be a really prevalent thing, and you're going to see a bunch of people running to Netflix to see what everybody else was talking about. I mean, if you're into the MCU, and no offense, literally, I mean, sometimes, but this is the time to jump on Daredevil and see what everybody was talking about. At least, get more information on the world of Hell's Kitchen and things like that, and how the gangs and stuff were run. You will see that side of Kingpin much better. And I do think that it's not necessary to watch it, but listening, I didn't think it was necessary to watch Daredevil, but now more than I'm hearing from you and I'm looking in the chat and I'm thinking about it, it's you kind of do need to have that extra information, because I don't disagree with what Wes and Silva are saying about that, how it was handled. I do think it could have been it was a little sloppy, but I'm trying to look at it as, this is what we have. And we're not getting another, they're not going to do a do-over. So
Yeah, it's like, do you want more Kingpin? Do you want more of his background? Check out the new Echo series coming from Disney Plus in the next year plus or whatever.
And I mean, different people are probably going to interpret this character differently with different writers, different directors, different, like different tones of a show. Like Echo, I don't think is going to be the lighthearted romp that this was. I think that's going to be more serious. I mean, I don't know. What are they going to?
Well, it's like any comic run. A character taken by a new artist, by a new storyteller, by a new inker is going to look different, feel different, act different than, the same character drawn by a different artist, with a different run and different writers and all of that. So, I mean, I think we will get those variations. So, yeah, I think people that might have concerns, look, we're introducing, this is MCU saying, hey, we're going to bring these people back. It's going to be cool. You're going to like it. And that's kind of what encourages me.
Yeah. And now I just want more Kingpin like now.
I agree with.
Bring on whatever. I don't care. Throw him in everything. Because I think that Kingpin has such a great potential to reach across so many different shows, and it's gonna be really, really cool.
Yeah. Well, let's
like I said, I'm sorry.
No.
If you didn't like where it started, I think we'll as it goes on, we'll like where it goes.
Well, let's move on from Kingpin for the moment. Jump into or jump with Clint and Kate. And the one thing I do like about this episode is in the first 10 minutes, we pretty much get to the big finale scene. They moved it all very quick. They settled. We had the Eleanor Kingpin face-off. We had the Maya Kingpin face-off. Brings these elements together. We get back to Clint and Kate. And we're partners. And Clint says we're partners. And this is the big moment for Kate. I got to tear up now. I'm so proud for her. Which was, I think, a big thing. And we get our trick arrow build. So let's switch off the other direction. Rob, let's lean off there with you. What did you think of we're a team, we're partners. Let's get a bunch of materials. We got to have our montage scene before the big final battle.
It's fine. Again, like when we're discussing this stuff, it's like, how invested was I in all this? And because we got all these different plots going on around in the story, it's like you gotta, I find this one to be the least interesting because it's the most predictable. And with everything else, I just didn't, I didn't know what they were going to do with Kingpin. I didn't know where they were going to go with Echo. I didn't know. Well, those were the two. And with like what they were going to do with like her mother.
Yeah.
Everything else just played out the way it needed to play out. Typical, we're not partners. Yes, we are. I mean, it was all going there. It was all right in front of us. And it just played like, the formula for one of these kind of movies. They finally see, realize, but the thing, and that's not saying it was bad or anything. It's fine. It's predictable. You know what I mean? Like it's really predictable, but like, again, the performances from everyone elevate all of this so much more. Because this to me is like, because I'm not big into Christmas movies. I'm not big into holiday movies. But this, I find them to be silly and I'm not going to get too personal about it. But I like that with people like Jeremy Renner and Kaylee Steinfeld and Vincent D'Onofrio and Florence Pugh, especially Florence Pugh. It takes these kind of predictable, cliched holiday things and makes them more watchable for someone who doesn't like that content normally.
Hey, what else could you ask for from a superpower Christmas movie or series? Perfect. Corrie, what about yourself? What did you think of our little coming together scene and the building of our arrow montage?
I actually liked it because I knew, as Rob was saying, that this is kind of the end goal that we were shooting for. Pardon the pun. Kate idolizes Clint in the Battle of New York and dreams of working with him, and so the goal is that eventually by episode 6 she will be working with him on equal footing or value, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I liked was kind of the MacGyver element of them making the trick arrows, that we see Clint, he makes his own gear, he makes his own arrows. It reminded me a bit of early Tony Stark when he's making his suit.
Mm-hmm.
We see Clint, I don't know, he's doing soldering and whatever is in that particular scene. But I really liked that because it brought it back to, here's a guy that's not super powered, but he has a skill set as an archer, but he also has a skill set with his hands, engineering stuff, which I didn't really know that Clint was talented in that area because we'd never really seen him do that in the past. So that was neat. I also liked that he was using bits and pieces from other superheroes. So he was using Stark Tech and he was using Pym Tech. And so that kind of was a wink towards those other characters. And it was nice to have Stark Tech in there, even though we don't have Tony anymore in the film and in the movies. So yeah, I just thought that was a really cool scene. It also was giving off like dad-daughter vibes, like Clint's training Kate, Clint's teaching her, and I love the end scene, which we'll get to, where he says he's proud of her. But
yeah. Well, that is the nice thing they sort of do layer in as we get more of the training. We've seen it at a few little points here, but he's talking about the material later on as they're getting into the big finale. He's starting to say, what do you see around? What are your assets? What are your stuff? So I do like the sort of mentoring direction they went with that. Wes here in the chat has to mention, huge fan of the trick arrows. Reminds him so much of reading the comics when he was young. So yeah, I think that's a big grab there. Also want to be sure to say hi to the Rich Room joining us live in the chat as well. And everyone, I do want to try and hopefully maybe get to a few questions if possible. So hold on to some of those thoughts towards the end. I want to try and get to some of your thoughts as well before we wrap things up. But let's get to our big battle. Again, I did appreciate the fact they only spent about 10 minutes before we got to the big scene. We get our times. There's a lot of things to juggle, so we will hit kind of one at a time. And we'll start with a couple of the more of the side characters. The first, who I have to say, surprised and pleasantly so to show up at our ending, the LARPers. Serving as backup. That was kind of a fun little thing. Do you guys any thoughts of our LARPers showing up? Are they going to be our Kate backup crew now?
Kind of reminded me of like the Baker Street Irregulars with Sherlock Holmes.
Sure.
The people on the ground that he knows he can tap on when he needs help. I also thought it was hilarious that they totally flipped the like regular way you'd see things, because these guys are like firefighters, police officers, first responders. And then they make that comment about, okay, we're trained for this, but this isn't working. We need to bring out the big guns. Okay, time to get in our LARPing gear. like that was better than, their police officer training.
And it wasn't to fight, it was for crowd control, which was great. Yeah. All right, let's do it. Okay, everyone, this way. I mean,
it kind of reminded me of like Comic-Con, like someone who is a super fan would be like, all right, I'm a firefighter, but we need to use our Comic-Con skill sets for this crazy mess of a crowd. Okay, people. So that made me laugh. And it wasn't as painful as the previous LARPing experiences. So
I agree. It did not hurt this time. Rob, you just want to get to the next subject, don't you?
No, I mean, no. Now I can say I if you want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
No, of course I do.
I did laugh when that one woman hit that guy with the baseball bat right in the face, and then she's like, "Oh my word!" That actually, she looks startled. Anyway,
Yeah.
no,
Rob?
it still hurt. It hurt hard. I get why they're there. I get why they're in this. They want to talk about because they bring it up. I think even in this episode about what makes a hero. There's all sorts of talk like that. Like, is this what a hero does? Anybody can be a hero. Anybody can wear the mask. Whatever you want to say. So I get why it's in here, but I literally could have done without those characters from completely. And it hurt the first time. It hurts now. It's nothing against the actors. I just know, like, if I'm not into LARPing, but I mean, if superheroes were real, I know even I would be annoyed by the thought of me meeting a superhero. I'd be like, you would be relentlessly awful.
Yeah.
And so I recognize that in myself, and I see they're kind of reflected on me, and maybe I just don't like what I'm seeing back at me. And so I could do without them. I could do without them. In fact, I really wanted them to go down in a hail of bullets. But this is a nice show. This is a nice friendly show. Take it a few arrows or something. I don't know.
arrow
But
to the
that's just
knee.
me. I did not find it charming. I just found them just annoying. But again, I'm trying to talk about it though in a positive. Like, I understand why they're there. It's like,
Hey,
I can appreciate why they're there. I just personally could have done without them.
Well, you can just say, Rob, that you're of the same mindset as Clint, because he was up at the tree and he saw them and he's like, "Oh, they're gonna die."
We're all gonna die. Yep.
We're all gonna die. Now, someone who was also showing up, helping to save the day at that party in a gloriously magnificent way, Jack the Swordsman making his debut. Knowing that he's obviously missing something. God, he gets the best line deliveries. He gets the best line deliveries. And then just goes off and does his thing. And this has to be the other end of the scale for you here, Rob.
Oh yeah.
To see a Jack.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, he gets to horrify a young boy.
Yes,
It's right up there at the top. Making a child cry is so high up there for like on my like dream and like if I made like a collage or whatever they call those dream boards, there'd be a lot of pictures of children crying because it's just I don't know. But him being able to tell off the kid like that was totally me. I'm just telling him everybody knows. Everybody knows. And because I just love that. I love that Jack is in his own universe. He's in his own movie.
Totally.
And nothing is like phasing him at all. And I want more of this. Like, this would be a great character to come back. Like the opposite. Like, if he was with the LARPers, the LARPers might gain some level of cool just with him being next to them.
And talent. They'd actually learn how to use those swords.
Yeah, and I want more of him because I could see him being a character of like I want to kind of be in, but not being let in. Because in the comics he is kind of he's this guy goes way back to being like that guy bounces back and forth between good and bad and whatever. But I think this version of him just wants to. He's enjoying his life. But if he has the chance to draw his swords, he will do so more probably.
We'll see. Yeah, see, that's a great thing I think that they could use with the character for how he feels is he does actually feel in that middle ground, not because he's good or bad, but because he wants to do good, but isn't smart enough to realize when he's being manipulated. So he could be pushed to be told this is the right thing or this is what it is. And he's just caught up with his own world of being the swordsman and doing his stuff and could do good or bad. Obviously, he would want to do good, but I could totally see him, being a villain thinking he's on the right side. If you want to do like a Thunderbolts type kind of thing. Again, I so want to see him with Zemo, dancing, sword fighting, whatever, discussing things.
I liked that he actually had a chance to save Kate. Like, he shows up, attacks, punches the one guy. He's like, Kate, darling.
Yes.
Of
Yeah,
course.
I mean, he's been arrested, and and the honeymoons. They haven't even gotten married, and they're basically, she's had him thrown in jail, and he's still acting like nothing's changed.
Well, he shows up with a sword after being accused of stabbing someone with a sword. I mean, that's
when he says that's an interesting flex. I was like, yeah, that's one way to go. I love that. I love that. He's the biggest surprise to me of how much, like, I already like him, but I didn't realize how much of a standout character he would be, because he's there to be the patsy.
Yeah.
But for not just literal for the story, but for all of us that get home, we're supposed to go, but the way that they just pretty quickly kind of kept getting us away from that he's actually a bad guy and that he's just a guy who has a lot of money, a very strange family, and I just don't give him his own show, but definitely bring him back so that he can steal scenes.
Yeah. No, I mean, stand out minor character. Every time he's on the screen, you just want more of him. And the chat is completely agreeing.
Let's put him and Florence Pugh together and find out what happens in that scene.
Gosh, she would kick the crap out of him, though. I'm pretty sure that's how that would go down.
Or they just sit and have macaroni and cheese,
That's there'd be discussion. Is it good? Is it bad? He'd want to bring in something else. Yeah, it would go in culinary directions.
Yeah, sword collection. She'd be like, "Oh, this one's really good. I know, right?"
Well, actually, let's get into Yelena, because part of this showdown does deal with Kate and Yelena, or Yelena trying to go after Clint and Kate trying to stop Yelena. Most of the internet enjoyed this as far as I could see. It was definitely playful. I love seeing the two of them together. Tonally, my question is, did it work for you? For me, it was almost like it's almost too playful. I mean, I get the stuff, but I don't. Again, this is where the stumbling over genre starts to feel weird, because they want to get gritty and angry and you killed my sister. At the same time, they're doing slap fights in the elevator, trying to stop. And I know that this is, they don't really want to attack each other. They don't really want to fight each other. It's definitely more on that playful edge. But tonally, I'm curious if it worked for you guys. Rob, let's go your way.
I think tonally, I thought Kate was fine. I thought tonally, Yelena wasn't. It was like I've said before, they've written her to not say the right things, not, know things that she would know. Like we know this character because we've been watching Scarlett Johansson be this character basically for a version of this character, a Black Widow who would know all these tricks and smarts and all this stuff. I mean, look how everybody was getting out, like everybody who thought they were outsmarting someone in this was, like Kingpin knew immediately, all these people knew when somebody was BSing them. But Yelena is kind of written like not as smart as she should be. But also just kind of, I'm just here to kill, bye-bye, and then I leave, no, this is more serious than that. And you know it. Everybody knows it, but somebody told her to just have fun. Just have fun with it. And it was fun. I thought that them chasing each other around was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But then it shouldn't have gotten to, there should have been a resolution before. Like, I almost feel like the fight never should have happened. The second fight.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they should have resolved it before it even got to that, because the second part of it was where it really went off the rails for me.
Okay. Well, we're definitely going to get into that shortly. What about you? What about you, Corey? What did you think of our Yelena Kate mini battle? Battle from the
Well,
elevator and down the hall.
yes. Well, I felt the whole time that Yelena is just playing with her like a cat with a mouse. I
Mhm.
really never felt that Kate even really had a chance against Yelena.
Sure.
And I just don't understand why Yelena didn't just like knock her out or do something. I mean, obviously she's in the show, and so she has to make it to the end of the episode. But to me, logically, it didn't make sense of why would she constantly be like batting away this person who's just an annoyance and she has a job to do. If she really was set on getting revenge for her sister and killing Clint, I would assume she'd be a lot more serious about it and a lot more quick to find a solution and end anything that's stopping her from reaching her goal.
Sure.
So in that sense, like they were fun scenes to watch, but I kept thinking, why is Yelena taking so long to deal with this? Like, if it was Natasha, Kate would be out cold, having been head smashed into the side of a railing like she did with Clint.
Yeah, I have to kill you. I can electrocute you, I can shock you, knock you down, and go kill Clint, and then
Yes, yeah. So I don't think they worked well in terms of fighting partners or fighting opposites. There's too much training on the side of Yelena, or at least I'm led to believe too much training on the side of Yelena and not enough on the side of Kate. And so it didn't really match well and didn't play realistically.
Yeah. Well, I know that through a lot of this, and we'll get on just a second when we talk about the big kind of Rockefeller Center main showdown. But I think a lot of this, they have tried to show Kate as being more capable. She's trained. She has all of these skills. But I do think that that's the issue they run into. And honestly, this is something you run into fight scenes all the time between all sorts of characters, is trying to effectively show different levels of skill. Choreographically wise, one of the most difficult things to pull off is a miss. A miss or a feint is very difficult to pull off and not look like some sort of just mistake or goofy thing. If somebody wants to fake do a thing or to move out, it's a difficult thing to really portray properly on screen. So I know trying to do people's different skills are going to be very difficult to kind of portray along as well, because you're right. Yelena should mop the floor with Kate.
Yeah.
Kate is effective and she's trained, but she doesn't have the battle-hardened experience behind that training, regardless of what your competition is, that a Black Widow who's been trained since she was a little girl is going to have.
And I think we saw that as well with the Kingpin fight at the end. I'm like, really? She's seriously going to just try to take out this guy that's, 5 times her body size. Like,
well, in a way that worked because he's just a brick. And it's like you could just hit that and not do anything. In some ways, that's almost a large enough difference because his fighting style is also not kung fu. He's not going to block, spin, kick. He's going to take the hit, pick you up with one hand, and throw you across the room.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they could have fixed it if they had gone with an unexpected solution to the problem that Kate comes up with, or something more mentally. Like, she thinks of something that maybe Yelena wouldn't have been aware of or thought of. And so Kate does something kind of left-handed or out of the box that catches Yelena off by surprise. Like,
sure.
Those kind of fight solutions.
If Clint had whistled the whistle beforehand and then Kate whistled it at Yelena, where we would have jumped ahead, where she would have been like, how did you, and then they could have had a conversation or something, like if they had done something previously to try to set up like some sort of thing that would, shake her. But again, I think they just wanted to give us they just wanted to do the fights.
Sure.
It's
And
just
again,
really
it was fun, and it did portray these
Yeah.
people don't really want to try and hate each other, and they're kind of equally matched and so on. I mean, it worked in that sense. But yeah, I think you guys both agree with me, so you must be right.
Logical
It's
fallacy.
that's it. Is I think that there's a lot of tones that they're trying to balance here, and I don't think that always works. And yeah, I think you're right, Rob. It worked for Kate where she's at. For Yelena, yeah, why didn't you just turn around and zzz her, and then she'd be down?
Or use the coin flip like in that scene to do something like close the window or lock the,
You had to save that for the Kingpin bit. You can't give it away. All right. Now our big fight. I mean, really the kind of central bit, the one part of all of this that we were all expecting and looking forward for, is really the giant battle of Clint and Kate versus the tracksuits. The bros got to go down at Rockefeller Center. This is what we want to see in a big third act fight. We have giant trees falling. We have an endless supply of mindless goons. We have explosions. We've got stunts. We've got fights. We've got trick arrows. We've got fancy little things and cools. This is our big Marvel finale. How did this play off for you guys? Did this satisfy you? Did you like it? Was there any particular bits you really enjoyed? Was a cool moment? Were there little things that were like, not for me? What? I'll just throw this out. Either of you start off. What did you guys think of the finale bit?
that was the part that I really had to turn my brain off for. Because again, I know that I'm not alone in how we think about things, where we're trying to enjoy ourselves. But then we start looking deeper and we go, don't look any deeper. Not everything has to be, more below the surface. But I had to fight that a lot. Like, how come it looks like there are 1,000 guys, but only 6 guys laying on the ground? Wouldn't it have been cooler if when they used the trick arrows, it felt more set up? Like it just felt like there was no rhyme or reason to what they were firing. And even the one at the end was presumably an accident with the truck. What was their plan? What was their plan? To literally, even if they landed, okay, I guess they wanted to hit them. But I mean, they were like a missile, without any way to control it. And then when you land, you're probably either dead or close to it.
They were angry bros at that point.
Really angry bro. They're probably in some owl's stomach, but
really cute owl.
I feel like it was. I really liked seeing what all the trick arrows were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
First things first. That many people rushing in, and you only have bows and arrows. That was the other part. Is like, how fast can you fire that many arrows? And it was, again, I had to keep saying, shut up and just watch it and enjoy it. Watch the guns fly out of their hands. Watch them get stuck with darts. Because at that part, it was all fun. I was looking for a little more structure, a little more like, okay, these guys are over here. We got to use this arrow for that. And instead, it just felt like willy-nilly. Just like, oh, this one does this and this one does that. And that's cool. But I like seeing more strategy about it. And yeah, I'll completely forgive the Pym particle one just because anytime they use it, it's just fun and awesome. But still, that's why the only complaint I had was against the villain. But what was your plan here? You just charge through Rockefeller Center? And, okay. Well, like I said, it didn't work out for him. But other than, like I said, it was a lot of fun. I had to turn my brain off. But my favorite part was when she came sliding in, shooting all the steam. Like it was a great superhero moment. It is a great setup for it. It is the big fight. There were no lasers shooting up into the sky, opening up a portal. Mephisto didn't show up. So it's, it's all
You didn't
good.
have to break the one thing and then everybody just drops and it's over with. You actually have to at least shoot all the guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
AOS would have done it better, as Silver
Yes!
Surfer was saying.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was
That's a
thinking.
really good point. That is such a good point. Oh my gosh. Speaking of Silva, yes, I do like Lethal Weapon, and it is not officially Christmas until Hans Gruber falls from Nakatomi Plaza.
That's true. That's kind of what signifies it all.
Yeah.
What about you, Corrie?
I agree. I just kept thinking, it's a fun scene and there's a lot of stuff going on. But man, if this was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it would have been such a better setup, structured, organized fight scene with particular payoff moments where we're like, that thing that we learned about last episode is now coming into use this episode, or and the only time we saw that was with the coin flip way at the end.
Sure.
The other thing that just keeps bugging me about these kind of scenes is they're archers and they keep using their bows as defensive weapons, and I'm like, any archer who actually does archery will tell you never want to use your bow as the defense. That's your weapon, and it's how you shoot your arrows. The last thing you want to do is use the bow to hit somebody, because if you break that thing, you're hooped. So I just, every time they do that, I'm like, no, the bow, don't. It's like, where did you learn?
Sadly, that's actually one of my favorite points in the fight, is the way that Kate uses her bow in the fight. She's done it before in the roof fight. She did here. She launches off of it. She'll flip off of it. And then she'll, Clint, it's almost like a bow staff.
Yeah.
Sorry for the puns. But it's used, it's a staff, it's a hit, and I totally get what you're coming from a tactical standpoint. If you risk damaging your weapon, then it's messed up. These are super weapons, so they don't break unless the plot requires that. So, but again, that is one of the choreography things I just noticed when I do talk about differences. This is something that they have done that I think is cool, is you do see how Kate fights differently than Clint does with the bow. Mm-hmm. For her, it's more of a personal modification tool, a flip, a boom. She'll pop the thing and then she'll, use it as a springboard almost to go off. And whether that's effective or not, it is one thing that I noticed them purposely doing, and I actually kind of enjoy, just because it is something different between characters.
I mean, we know she has a background in gymnastics, so it makes sense that she would be using everything around her as almost a springboard.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas Clint's like, oh, my back. Okay. Yep. that went out. Oh, my head. Poor Clint.
The more grounded of the two.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
When she dropped her bow, I don't know if you guys caught it. I don't know what made me think of this, but she drops her bow at one point. He picks it up and gives it to her. And I half expected him to be like, "This weapon is your life." Like, I totally thought he was going to bust out of some Obi-Wan Kenobi on her, man. It really just felt so right the way he handed it to her. Like, this like their bow is like their lightsaber, man. Like, you gotta show respect for it.
Well, it's funny because I was almost expecting her to say something like, "I could see where one of those collapsibles would be useful,"
Yep.
It just comes back and forth. So yeah, it's interesting that there was kind of a moment right there that was fun. But yeah, again, I think Wes mentioned it there. It was a big over the top turn, let's see, ridiculous and over the top, and he loved it. This is your big Marvel fight finale. There is a lot of CGI, but again, at least there are no sky beams. It's not, it's CGI of a physical object and not just glowing beams and stuff like that. So a little bit of a difference. And then we have 3 endings for characters and arcs just here. Clint and Yelena. Rob, I got to agree with you. This felt like just a completely unnecessary added on kind of scene. Was wish that they went through it. They had to, but I don't know.
Mad
Did
at
they have
herself.
to? Did they really have to?
Again, I think if this was like season 2, like all these different there's a more fulfilling plot for everyone if they had just cut out one of the two characters, one of the two storylines, make it more streamlined. You could even go into more depth. I don't know if they were trying to fill in more time or what, or they felt like they set these things up and they're in a rush to get all this extra information out. But I think that the Clint Yelena thing would have been something that they would do in something else, not here. Anybody could have been like Echo. Should have just been the main bad person, just always in their way. Save Yelena for a different movie. I'm glad she's here. I love Florence Pugh. It's weird to complain about something that when you like it at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so happy it's here. I'm so happy we got these scenes. They just don't seem necessary. Like, it just feels like it's hurting the overall product.
I know, it's like chocolate chip cookies first thing in the morning. Like, great, but I just want breakfast.
And as Wes said, I'm glad it's behind us at least. Sometimes, you just gotta whatever. The whole thing was she's mad at herself, so she's taking it out on Clint, and Clint can take it. Yeah. And they're both hurting. It's a way to finally, put to bed some of this stuff. It's just, again, it could have been better executed if the plot was all about the majority of the plot was about that.
Sure.
But when you really break down every single thing that is in this show, it's way too much. Just way too much, man. And again, less is more sometimes, but they're trying to they're really giving you everything that you possibly could want. And unfortunately, maybe that's just a lesson they got to learn is less is more sometimes.
Well, and they are giving. There is so much material coming. There doesn't seem to be a need to. And I don't know. Maybe they're probably going, "What? You guys keep asking for this stuff, so we give it all to you, and now it's too much. What do you want?"
Yeah.
I can get that complaint, but yeah, it's like pace things out. At this point, God, if you even had just kept Fisk for the final scene or one little like discussion bit, and then there's too many things. Corrie, do you have any thoughts on the kind of Clint Yelena fight / solution, whatever that is?
Yes, I wanted to jump off of what Rob was saying. I feel like they should have either gone with having Yelena be the problem from the first or second episode, and Clint's trying to constantly get away from her, and she's constantly trying to track him. Meanwhile, he's also got Kate, who keeps butting into his life, and he's trying to keep her safe. Either do that, or do the tracksuits and the Fisk and the Mafia storyline. Don't try to smush them both together. But having said all that, there were some moments in the scene that I did like. There was some dialogue that I quite liked, especially when Yelena says, "You got to have so much time with her, Natasha," and her blaming herself, like, I could have stopped it, I could have changed it, which is exactly what Clint went through of, why didn't I do something to stop Natasha from jumping off that cliff? And he has the line, Natasha, nothing could have stopped her. She made a choice. We all need to find a way to live with that. And they end with Yelena saying, "I loved her so much." Clint says, "Me too." And, if you've ever lost somebody you love a lot, you go through these questions and these like self-blaming of, you got to spend more time with this person that I loved. Why didn't I get to spend time with them? If you were separated from them, or if I could have done something different, the what if questions, right? So even though the scene wasn't the greatest and it probably could have been structured better or used in a better TV show,
Mhm.
I think that what we got was, there were some gems in it that were quite nice.
Oh, for sure. I mean, one of the interesting just tones that I got from that scene was Renner at a time kind of in that interesting conflict of, I just want to get back to my family, but I just want this to be over. So if I get back, great. If you have to kill me, at least that would end this in a way. I mean, there was such kind of a heaviness to him in this scene. It's like you could tell. I mean, obviously he would do anything to get back to his family, but in the other way he was also like, but I'm just so tired of this constant fight and burden that I have to carry. It gave a real interesting scene to it. And again, that's why just tonally we get all over the map on this.
And then she just leaves.
Yeah.
No, she would at least go to the Christmas scene at the end.
We were short one chair, so sorry you can't come.
Nat would have been here if she was alive. You know, that was really weird. Okay. Kate and Kingpin. We kind of touched on this already. We do have, obviously, Mom here has been found out that she's sacrificing everyone. This is all about Dad's debt, and she's gotten pulled in, but she's had no problem working with the Kingpin all this time, who's not really ready to let her escape. I do love the very classic comic book, just rip the door off the hinges. Eleanor, don't leave. We could still work this out. But yeah, what? Hit by a car, blown up, shot in the chest. This was so comic book. This again, as much as we love the Netflix grounded toughness of this character, come on, man. This is what we've been reading. Spider-Man. That's where I saw most of my Kingpin stuff, comics for years. So, what did you think about? Well, Corey, we'll move off with you first here. What did you think of our big final Kate Kingpin face-off? Did it work for you? Was it necessary?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I felt like the fight scene was a little bit, I didn't really believe it that she's trying to attack. I'm like, are you really seriously going to attack this guy that all you can do is like try to wrap your hands around his neck and you're causing no damage whatsoever? You know, she does do one of those like Black Widow spin takedown things, which I thought was kind of cool that we're seeing that. But I just didn't feel like she's not going to win this fight. What is her plan here? What is she actually trying to accomplish? Because
escape.
She's not going to, take this guy out. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we finally saw the coin flip trick pay off in the end.
Sure.
With Kingpin, and I liked that she used that to activate the magnet arrows and then cause the explosion. But to me, it kind of felt like it was random. Like, how did she know among all those arrows that one arrow was the one that was magnetic, that was going to cause the electricity? That was like, it felt like, as Rob was saying, it would be nice if there was more planning to the attack scenes. Like, what exactly are we trying to do and how are we accomplishing it? Or is it just a random try what you can and see what happens? Which I know Kate kind of has that as a modus operandi. She kind of just does things and then realizes, oh, oops, afterwards, like with the bell tower.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. So it was an odd pairing, and I was just trying to figure out what's she trying to do in this scene, and does she really think she's gonna take this guy out? Because I don't.
Right. Rob, what did you think of our Kate Kingpin face-off?
I mean, everything she's saying is, I mean, like I was like, oh, she knew that was the arrow to fence in a hole in the wall. But more than that, and this was the thing that probably bothered me the most, and I rewound it, and I sat there and I watched it so many times because I would lose focus on what I was trying to see because D'Onofrio takes over a scene. I kept going, stupid idiot. Watch what you're trying to like. I got sucked into it. Like, how many times do I have to rewatch this thing because I keep missing it because I'm so engaged in him? And there's no. If you look at the time from when she gets his attention away from the car.
Yeah.
That means that the mom gets out of the back seat of the car, drags the dead guy out of the car, gets in the car. The keys happen to be in it. She has to turn that car to face the other way on a small street and get the momentum to build up to hit him within the time frame of that. And there's just no possible way she could have done it. She could not have done all that without them going, hey, your mom's leaving. You know, like in the car, she's driving away. There's just no way. It was right there. Everything was really close and tight.
Yeah.
And that part, that was where I drew the line for myself, where I was like, I still enjoyed the fight. I thought it's way over the top. He would have put his fist right through her practically, in my opinion. But that was the part that bugged me. He shouldn't even have been able to go through the window in the first place because it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But again, yes, like you said, it's very comic booky. The other thing is if that's the too dangerous arrow, it didn't seem much different from the arrow that he used at the very end of the fight to blow those guys up. It just seemed like another boom. And it should have been something more creative than an explosion. I know I saw some fireworks go off, but I think that all these different arrows were going off that who knows which one was which, but I would have thought there'd be a little more creativity to Too Dangerous than just an explosion. And then also he's right next to it. He does have Kevlar on. So most of it should have been burned instead of him just laying there in a heap, just a little singed.
That's where it lends a little bit into the
disbelief.
Disney coverage. Yeah. Because it should have been a little bit more messed up. And honestly, when the police showed up and arrested Mom on Christmas Eve, because you got to do that, Mom. You're insane.
Is this what heroes do? Arrest your mother at Christmas? I was like, oh my God, did she just become Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development all of a sudden? Where she's just suddenly
Is this what you're doing for your mother now? How appreciative are you of your mother now?
You don't
I got you that, Bo.
Have me arrested. Like, I was like, where the hell did that line come from? That was awful.
The other question is, do we actually know that she murdered Armand? Because we never see it.
No, they just sort of, again, paper.
I mean, it could be one of Kingpin men that murdered Armand.
The video evidence is going to be dismissed because she's got really smart lawyers and she'll be out. Don't worry, by the sequel time, she won't be serving any time. She'll just be giving guilt trips.
Or that's how you get Vera Farmiga out of the show.
Sure.
You put her in jail, and then you don't have to pay the actress to be on it, except for maybe the visiting jail scene.
Right, a singular scene, a day of work. A day of work is what you would want. Yeah.
And then Clint compliments Kate on that by saying, like, you held your own against Kingpin. Not many people would survive that. I'm like, really, Clint? Really? She held. She just
Kingpin didn't really want to kill her, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, once he gets arrested, we get the shot of the Kingpin area, but he is gone. To me, a perfect way to end things. But we still have our one final little bit that we've got to tie up. And I know we've even had this whole other fight scene. Maya We had Maya versus Kazi. We get Maya versus Kingpin. We've got to talk about it for at least a minute before we wrap this up. My summation points. Yeah, she should have just left town. Save all this for whatever the next series is. The face-off with Kazi, expected, but why did it over the top? That's actually where you put the blood stain on the side of her face and give that to the character as she goes after Kingpin, for you little comic book, aficionados. And then the Kingpin bit really felt just honestly unnecessary. I hope they don't do the blindness thing. This would be way too early to try and do something like that. But
that's how he meets Matt Murdock. And they become buddies for a while.
No, don't hurt my brain like that, Rob.
And then it's just a sitcom. They turn it into Willie and Matt. They're both blind.
Oh,
awful,
goodness.
Awful.
One's a lawyer, one's a mobster. Ooh, if they could only see what the other one was up to.
Stop it. Okay, so obviously my opinion on this is pretty well apparent. Again, I mean, I like seeing Maya, but she's going off. We know an Echo thing, I guess, is happening. I don't know if I really care about a whole series centered around this particular character, but okay. And hopefully that means we're getting more Kingpin, but don't give me this fake, did she just kill Kingpin? He was blown up, shot in the chest, hit by a car.
Yeah, he's not dead. Is she dead?
Just why? Just why did they have to have this? She could have left after the Kazi scene. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, my guess is it has to play directly into whatever her series or storyline is going to be, but
yeah, as soon as it happened, I was like, I smell a coma / amnesia / blind plot coming for Kingpin, like somehow I don't remember what I was doing in that alley.
Yeah, Rich Metz goes right with you. Murdoch and Fisk, new sitcom Friday nights on ABC.
Oh no. Give me back Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Please.
Sitcoms for
Save
you.
my sanity.
Yeah. Anyway, just if you guys have any thoughts or anything to add on to.
I mean, we already know that she's leaving for a show, so they can't even tease the potential of, did Maya get killed? Well, we know she didn't because she has a show coming. So
Echo, just a question mark. That's how they're going to be advertising the show.
I feel like we really don't need an Echo show. I feel like, as Rob was saying, either Yelena or Echo or both of them could have been cut out of this whole TV series and just focus more on Hawkeye and Kate.
Yeah. Silva's like mentioning still Jack and Zemo show, please. So, we get other spinoffs on this one than the one they intend to get.
Dancing and sword fighting.
Yeah, and if you think that there's a lot jammed into this show, I can't even begin to tell you how much is going to be jammed into the Echo show. Because she's a character that nobody even knows.
Well, that's where you would have Fisk. That's where Daredevil would come back if you're going to do that. I mean, you could do a whole street level
bring
stuff.
Everybody in. She could be, there could be a Heroes Anonymous meeting, and she's she's there, and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Danny Rand are all there, and that's how they all meet. Like the freaking Breakfast Club for superhero anonymous groups.
All right. I want to get into the ending. Really, I want to get into a discussion because the ending is it's Christmas. Everyone gets back, big happy together, blah, 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 blah. Wes, sorry, I got to approach this real quick. Wes mentioning in the chat, do you think that AOS is cut off from the MCU because of the Inhumans? The Inhumans doesn't exist. That's a show that only existed in a fever dream in your mind. We will say no more.
You need to get some help.
Yeah. There's medication help for that.
We only say that because we care. And it is the holiday season. And I know a lot of people got a lot of feelings going on. But you don't need to go to this level.
I just
Right.
go rewatch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
There you go. Okay. I wanted to get to this point because this is where we finally get the watch brought back. Yes, the Ronin suit is burned, blah, blah, blah. It's all wrapped up, whatever we want to do with that. I want to get to the watch because to me, this is the most annoying part of the entire series. Mainly because it is a total MacGuffin. A MacGuffin being an object that is important to the characters in a show, but of absolutely no importance to the audience. For some reason, the tracksuits want this watch. We never find out why. We get an end reveal that apparently it belongs to Laura, that she is an ex-S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, which is why she knows all this stuff, and she could possibly be Agent 19, which pisses off a lot of people because Agent 19 is also known as Mockingbird, aka Bobby Morse, who was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we have a big explosion on the internet about this, which I think is completely ridiculous. So I want to dive into this watch question. First off, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Bobby Morse thing. No, this in no way says that this is Mockingbird or Bobby Morse or any of that stuff. One, her name's Laura, not Bobby, not Babs, not Barbara. Why would she change her name? Two, do you think that ask me about my feminist agenda, Bobby Morse would be standing by while her man is out fighting bad guys and she's just hanging out by the house? No, not within her character at all. The MCU changes stuff all the time. Mandarin, okay, first became a false thing with Trevor Slattery, and then when we finally get to it, the head of the Ten Rings isn't even called the Mandarin because Sean's dad is all, what? That's a chicken dish. Sorry, I can't remember the actual guy's name. The Whiplash and Crimson Dynamo. Two characters mashed together for Iron Man 2. We get a lot of changes for things. So, also, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Bobby Morse is never, ever referred to as Mockingbird.
Yep.
Or Agent 19. We also, since this show ends with Kate trying to find her new name, Hawk Eve, Hawk this, and they say, oh, I've got one. How about Hawkeye? Is it just a title that is passed down from many people? And Lauren was the previous Mockingbird, and then it went to Bobby Morse. So Marvel likes to throw things around, but until anything is said, don't freak out, people. They change stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I just want to know why they wanted this damn watch.
Yeah.
Kingpin never mentions it. Track Fleet never mentions it. Nobody ever mentions it. Why is it on Maya's thing displayed and not like it's delayed? But why just Sorry, my lights are falling. I'm so upset. My whole set's falling apart. All right, I'm talking too much. See, I'm even hitting people's notes. So there's another thing that bugs me. Yeah, okay. There are buttons that do things on this I haven't figured out yet, folks. Sorry about the technical, but let me throw this out to you guys. What is up with the watch? Somebody please tell me what's going on with the watch. Why do people want this watch?
Well, we know it can't be just sentimental to Laura because if it was just sentimental, no one else would care about it. So there's something in it or connected with it, or I'm wondering if he mentioned that if somebody else gets this watch, agents could be in risk or an agent could be in danger. I'm wondering if that agent is actually Bobby, and I wonder if Bobby is related to Laura. Like, are they sisters, or did Bobby take over the Mockingbird title when Laura retired and was like, I'm leaving S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm starting a family with Clint, we want out, Bobby, here, you take the whatever.
Sure.
And so does the watch have information about where Bobby and Hunter are currently? And are they like still like secret
Yeah.
agents, even though they left technically? And is that going to put them at risk? I don't know.
But it's never addressed. I mean, that's my problem. That is my issue with this. If any of this was even hinted that this could be somebody else or this could go, but we do know there's some radio tracker because that's how she was able to find that it was in Maya's apartment. But you track a watch, not an agent. It can't track back. So how would that even track back to how would the... There's a lot of questions we can keep throwing out. But to me, this is the big... This is just one of the problems with the show that really comes back to me. Without the fact that it's juggling too many things. This is a plot. This is a very important points of the plot twist and move upon this particular object, of which nobody seems to want, nobody seems to address, but they need to retrieve it. And ultimately he finds it in a sub shop. It's being sold in the black market at somebody's table or something. He finds it like on a side street. I think ultimately is where he says that he finds it after, for some reason, Kate lost it in a fight, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm just asking ridiculous questions out. Does the chat have any questions? Do you guys have any ideas on this?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, like when you're talking about everybody freaking out over it, there's no reason to freak out over it, especially, you know, I actually get more frustrated at the fact that people are getting mad about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now. The sudden, you guys think that you started this conversation. Thank you. No, you didn't. For years, there have been people way before you talking about all these things. And then we suddenly have a bunch of people who like to piggyback on this and try to act like they're the first people who ever watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I know that makes me sound like an elitist about
gatekeeper.
But yeah.
We love our agents.
The real point is that instead of looking at it negatively, think of it as an overture.
There you go.
The shield symbol means something. Showing the shield symbol means something. Yeah. And it can mean anything. It could be all sorts of things, but the fact that they showed that it belonged to a shield agent means that Shield's the return of S.H.I.E.L.D. in some form is possible. And that, to me, instead of looking at it as Kevin Feige snubbing his nose at the fans once again, maybe this is just a clever little thing to drive us all nuts. He could even be sitting there going, well, I tried to give him like a really big clue there, and instead they went the other direction because it's the internet. And that instead of being like, oh my gosh, this could be that they're bringing S.H.I.E.L.D. back soon.
Well, you know, honestly, I think that's a very good point, because we do have D'Onofrio returning as Kingpin. We have Charlie Cox returning as Daredevil. We are seeing that these are not the exact version that we saw on the show, but similar of. You can certainly do either modifications of or just multiverse versions, variations on it, because again, I think that does mean we've had a lot of talk about Clark Gregg. We've had a lot of talk about Coulson in some of these shows and series and brought up. I think there's entirely possible that we see agents return. They just may not be in the form or specific history that we remember, or they may just kind of like Kingpin here, just bring them in and not refer to whatever past may or may not have happened. You may just get I thought you were dead. Yeah, a lot of people get that. Things have changed. You know, you may get a throwaway line and they can turn around and now introduce to new people, this is my tech crew, Fitzsimmons. You know, you can have Quake just quietly in the background, ignoring everyone until, you know, she can get that cool comic book intro. So in a way, this is, I think, ultimately encouraging that they are seeing that there is love for these characters and there are ways for them to step into this version of the MCU that we are seeing unfold in front of us.
Yep.
I only have one quote for you, and you guys said that Shield watch is never just a Shield watch. I have one quote for you. If this leaks any kind of goo, drop it and run. That does not sound like a watch.
Do not get these two objects close to each other.
Do you want to have kids?
Season
It's like,
1
oh.
flashbacks. All right. Okay. So, yeah. Any questions from? Let me go through and see if we've got some questions from the chat. We've got actually we got a very talkative chat going on today, so I want to be sure to sort of jump on to anyone. So, if you guys have any thoughts,
while you're looking, I can show everybody my Eternals Arishem Celestial Funko Pop. You can find those. These are out now. So if anybody is interested in that kind of thing, there's no way I wasn't going to buy this.
Silver Surfer, we would love to be the new writing team for Disney Plus.
Yeah, indeed.
Yep. I'll get my resume out.
Oh yeah, Wes wondering about Yelena's. Do you think? Ooh, hey, look, I can do fancy stuff. Brought up questions. Wes, do you think that she, talking about Yelena, decides to follow in her sister's footsteps after this? Try to join the Avengers, maybe? Does she remain a rogue? I don't know. I think this is something that may be popping up with Val, and we'll see her little connection to this group. And hopefully this will start some conflict that will move her in that direction. They do seem to be priming for a Young Avengers lineup. But, you know, who knows where the MCU is going to go. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
She's going to go right to her and say, you put me on a bad path. You know, who are you? What do you want? What do you really want?
Well, we know from the previous episodes that Yelena found another Black Widow who was working for hire. So she knows that's an option. What confused me was I was trying to figure out who hired Yelena to kill Barton, because in the Black Widow movie, she's hired by Val, or at least she's given information about, here's the guy, Clint, who murdered your sister. You want to go after her. It's implied that she's hired. But then in Hawkeye, we're told that Kate's mom hired Yelena.
Well, I think she hired Yelena through Val, as that was the kind of contact, as that's the middleman. Or it could even been Fisk she reached out to Fisk, who reached out to Val, who reached out to, though Fisk seemed a little more out of the loop on this one. So I think this may have been something she just did. Let's see, Wes here. Wonder if S.H.I.E.L.D. is reformed during Secret Invasion, and what happened to S.W.O.R.D., by the way. Well, I think we'll see S.W.O.R.D. in the Marvels when that pops up, because I know that we've got Photon's daughter showing up in from WandaVision, is now heading back up into S.W.O.R.D. So I think that she's there when Carol Danvers returns, and then we have the new Miss Marvel showing up as well. So either in the Marvel series or or the Marvels, I think we'll see more of S.W.O.R.D. I would love S.H.I.E.L.D. to be reformed in Secret Invasion. Oh yeah,
they bring it up in a movie recently. Where Nick Fury's been. So, I mean, they're definitely gonna go back to it. Also, since they released the comic book S.W.O.R.D., you know that they're doing something. They wouldn't just release that book without having plans for S.W.O.R.D. But yeah, I don't know.
Let's see.
I'm also wondering if Mockingbird is kind of like James Bond. Like there's multiple of them.
Yeah.
And they just keep passing the name along.
Well, that's what I'm thinking again, because they imply at the end of this that Hawkeye will be, of course, what Kate Bishop brings up, and that will be her moniker, which we know is. So I think, they're kind of doing you can't do it like what was it that Suicide Squad did. You can't just call her Ratcatcher 2. You can't just call her Mockingbird 2. What happened to the original Mockingbird? She retired.
LMD,
Okay.
yes.
Rich Room. Maybe Coulson will have an LMD in the MCU. Quake can definitely have a cool reintroduction in the MCU too. Feige did acknowledge AOS in one interview, so who knows what will happen. Yeah, I think they're playing everything very close to the vest. Also, Clark Gregg, very happy, very supportive of D'Onofrio's return as Kingpin. So I think we get a lot of characters going, can I come play in the sandbox now? I'd like to come back and play in the sandbox now.
And how many daisies do we have? LMD daisies? Are they still out there somewhere?
Though personally, I want actual Coulson, not LMD Coulson. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's me. Okay, hold it. I got this out. All right.
Yeah, now I'm just looking forward to news eventually, so that we can really have a discussion about this. Because I mean, but you know what I mean. Like that's what's so great about it. Like I said, this is an overture to get us talking. Except that there's just a problem: is that the internet is this awful place where people have to just jump to the worst conclusions because, you know, Adrian Pilecki is the end all be all of Mockingbirds and for some people. And so if you even hint that something is, you know, it's just like, get over it. Just get over it.
It's all okay, people. We can have
You're
different
gonna be
stuff.
on your deathbed screaming about this. Like, come on.
And nothing removes your head canon, okay? Your way of viewing the show and everything connections, nothing is going to change that. So that's all good. Yep. I got the way I see it, you know, maybe different from the way other people see it.
Wes wants to know if we think Clint is officially back in the game, or is he going to try to retire again? Remember last time he said he retired, he shot however many rounds of golf, it was perfect. You know, he's bored, he came back.
Sure. Well, honestly, I think if he goes back in the game, it undercuts some of the emotional impact of this particular series. That he should be retired, but maybe an on-call mentor, somebody that you know, Kate can reach out to or so on, and you know, maybe might show up at a one-off type mini thing. But no, to me, if he doesn't retire, it undercuts a lot of the intensity and emotion and the message that was behind his whole arc in this series or season.
It does feel like they've kind of wrapped things up for him. But, you know, depending on the idea and the amount of time that they would want to use him for and the amount of money they would pay him, you know, any of these guys, if the thing was absolutely right, I think just about would all come back for something special.
Sure.
Or like you said, same thing with like Eleanor's character, the jailhouse scene, or she goes to the farm because she has nowhere else to go and she needs to talk to her mentor again, you know, like that kind of thing. Either way, I mean, I don't think we've seen the last of him by any means.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I would like to see more, but no, I do think that he should be, you know, retired or in that, you know, if anything, he would be the consultant, the new Avengers consultant.
Or he could go the way of Melinda May and teach, right? Barton's School of Archery.
Barton's School of Archery.
Right.
All right. Final thoughts. Everyone on the episode, the season, anything that we missed. We went a little long, but again, I wanted to cover some of this extra stuff here that I think was important to dive into, and it's the last we get to talk about it. So
I just hope that they keep learning how to do this better. This is just the first year of you know, them trying this, and I can tell that they're learning not just from themselves, from doing it themselves, but they're taking cues off of what Netflix did. They're taking cues off of seeing what things worked on Hulu, what didn't work on Hulu. They're learning all sorts of things, and hopefully, as time goes on, they'll start to figure out things a little bit better, especially with tone and things like that. But again, I think this is just another good step in the right direction, and a really good way to end the year for you know, and like I said, we have problems with this. We have issues with scenes and certain whatever, but in the end, we really enjoyed the experience, and I really liked watching all of this, and I certainly feel a lot better at the end of this than I have at any of the other shows, any of them, because everything else is like the end of WandaVision. You have to see the next thing to feel, you know, anything really, you know, like closure for this. Loki, again, more to come. This feels like a closed off, you know, closed chapter of things, and that's nice to have something feel like it ended instead of leaving it too open ended. I think they will be back, but I do feel like this felt like a more contained story, and that's satisfying. And you don't get that a lot of satisfaction like that, despite problems.
Yeah, a lot of nitpicking going on. Overall, still a fun show. Corey, what about yourself?
I mean, we got home for Christmas. The Bartons farm seems like it's the like heart of the. If Coulson's the heart of the MCU character-wise, the Bartons family farm is the heart of the Avengers locations. And Tony Stark was right. Remember when they first visited? He's like, "This is an agent of some kind, and these are smaller agents." He was right. Laura was.
That's true.
Laura
At least
was
50%.
an agent. You know, so yeah, no, it was fine. I wish we had more time with Clint, with his family, more time with just Clint and Kate. I could have done without the tracksuits, and I could have done without Echo. I could have done without Yelena. But you know, for what we had, I'm happy we got what we got, and you know, it'll be fun to watch, you know, next Christmas and see if it's aged a little bit better, and if there's things that we're like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was, or that's actually better than I give it credit for. So
awesome. Rewatches are always good, and I gotta say, I have found this series really enjoyable, if not even more enjoyable on a rewatch than I necessarily always have on the first watch. So anything that improves over time, you got to appreciate. Silver Surfer in the chat, just want to say thanks for another year of being your awesome selves. Sincerely enjoy hanging out and dorking out with all of you. Well, thank you so much, Silva. We love you. You're here, if not every show, almost every show. Greatly appreciate it. And you guys, they're all the reasons that we do this. Yep. We could just chat amongst ourselves. It's so much more fun to share that with you. Wes, good series. Glad we got these 6 episodes with tons of cool stuff to enjoy. Completely agree. Rich Room mentions Hawkeye, even with its pitfalls, is actually my favorite show of the Disney Plus shows so far, just like its groundedness and humor. You know, it is, I think, up on the upper tier. There is stuff about Loki that I enjoyed. There is stuff that I like about WandaVision from its sort of ideas, but as a complete kind of even more tonally focused, though we talk about its tone issues, this is much better. And it is perfect for a holiday, you know, get home for Christmas, planes, trains, and tracksuit bros type movie.
And we finally got to see why Clint left halfway through that show, because we got to see the whole scene.
We almost made it out of here without talking about it.
Yeah, I was really hoping.
I had my coat on, my shoes on. I had the door halfway open. One foot out.
Not so good.
Why? If you're gonna give us a mid-credit scene, the whole song, not just the whole.
I mean, it could have been at the Barton farm. It could have been them training. It could have been Kate and Clint's daughter training together. But no, it had to be.
I know that they were trying to give credit to the work that they did for that scene.
Yeah.
But put it on the DVD.
Or
yeah, I just so did not.
You know what I mean?
Fix it and redo it from scratch and make it really good. I mean, I know they were going for humor. they were going for humor. But
then give us something else too. Then give us an end credit scene for if that's going to be it. Then give us a little end credit. Just heck,
I didn't even
Yelena
watch it.
having mac and cheese with Kate.
yeah,
Okay, you could have just done that.
yep.
Not even a shawarma scene, no dialogue, mac and cheese scene, ended. I would have been happy. I would have been so much happier.
I thought that they were gonna do something funny, like some weird little moment at that moment. But as soon as it's like they show the outside, and as soon as the guy's like, "Oh," it was done.
The whole song.
I paused it and then I fast forwarded to see what they were doing as I watched the whole thing play out in like a couple of seconds, and I went, "That's it." Oh, that's I mean, that's it.
No,
That's
chat.
like-
We can't do this all day. We can't do this all day.
Remember when Cap showed up at the end of one of the movies and he's like, "You're not even trying anymore," basically. Well, this is like the opposite of that, except worse somehow.
I mean, okay, it could have been that bonus scene where Steve came out and was like, you know, when you wait for something for a really long time and then it turns not to be worth it.
That's it. That's what I'm talking about.
That would have been, again, have fun with this.
Or if if they had all got hurt, like if this was like a performance where everybody just like fell or all the stuff was falling down or whatever, people were falling over themselves. I don't know if they had actually made it funny, but I know that I'm in the minority when it comes to musicals, but
it looked like it was a rehearsal. It didn't look like a
no full
very
audience.
bare bones.
No, that's what they shot to mix in, and you're right. They wanted for the musical loving crowd to get to enjoy this one scene of why you will never ever pay for Rogers the Musical.
Oh,
my God.
Side note of random musical fact interest. One of the actors that was in that scene originated a role in Rent. And so they have the lyrics about how the rent is so high and everything. And so it was like kind of inside.
I totally get that. That someone would be like, oh, it'll be worth it because someone will see that's the Rent guy. They'll get my joke. And look, I appreciate that. I have jokes all over the background here that half the people will never even get. So, yes, I get it.
Will this be the beginning of Marvel musicals?
No, stop.
No.
Don't say that out loud. You've doomed us all. You've doomed us all. Where's the wood? No.
I will say it did make the first scene better in Hawkeye because I actually saw what the full scene was with all of the hearing, and now going back and watching the scene where it goes quiet, where Hawkeye's thinking about Natasha, it actually makes it better.
Oh yeah. You get that's why we'd all be walking out. There should have just been a line of people just walking out like, oh my God, no.
Curse my stupid brain. Why do I have to think so much?
Or they may just bring that directly to Disneyland. They do have the Hawkeye show with all the stunts. So
yes, do this at Disneyland. Do this at the park where you can choose to see it or not. Because I will not stand in line. I will give that to somebody else. Thank you, everybody, for joining us with our wonderful full discussion. This does wrap up our coverage of Hawkeye, obviously, but we will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat station for Book of Fandalorians, kicking off with Rob here and Don Willie joining us back. So really look forward to that. Really look forward to seeing what that show's going to bring in. And, of course, it's Ming-Na Wen coming back as Fennec Shan, so we got no complaints over here.
She was almost that. She was going to be at C2E2 this year and canceled, so I didn't go.
Why else?
I was going to go meet her again.
That's the draw to go. Corrie, where can people find you and what you doing?
Oh my goodness, you can find me on my website, Literature with Charm, or you can look of my author name. It's c.l.shoemaker. I'm also on D's Reviews, and you can also find me at Soothing Scriptures, or if you do the hashtag @BiblicalBliss, I'll pop up with all my YouTube videos. So, yeah.
Excellent. And Rob, I know we're going to see you next week, but where can people find you for all of your straight up channel reviews?
You can find me on my channel smirking reviews occasionally nowadays. Like I've been killing myself putting out stuff for Wheel of Time and The Expanse, and I'm pumping the brakes a little and just doing it when I can instead of like forcing myself to rush out. So yeah, look for Wheel of Time finale and Expanse episode 3 of season 6 coming up. Otherwise, pretty chill. I'll be here next week. I'm looking forward to talking about Book of Mandalorians more than anything. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. It's been a long time coming. We got Boba Fett his own show finally. So I'm excited to be there talking with you and Don, and this was a lot of fun. This was nice. I'm glad that we bookended it with Corrie.
Yeah. No. It was a nice way to do that. So thank you, Corey, for joining us. Rob, as always, appreciate it. We will see you next week. Rich, Wes, Silva, everyone in the chat, everyone in the archives, thank you so much for spending time. And actually, speaking of Expanse, if you like Expanse, I'm going to be over on Enchantment Eternity. We're going to be on Sunday night this week because Saturday's Christmas, talking about episodes 3, which I guess already dropped. I got to go watch that. Woohoo! More shows. We'll see you all next week, y'all. Take
Merry
care.
Christmas.
And yes,